Remember the ex-wife of Kevin Costner? Take a deep breath before seeing her today, because what she has become will leave you speechless, not just because of how drastically she has changed on the outside, but because of the deep, powerful, and emotionally moving transformation she has undergone on the inside. A transformation so raw, so authentic, and so unexpected that it defies the shallow assumptions people often make about celebrity relationships and their aftermath, because for years she was known only as the stunning, graceful woman who stood quietly beside one of Hollywood's most bankable stars, the woman who turned heads on red carpets but kept her voice soft, her gaze modest, and her presence just far enough in the background to allow Costner's legend to grow unchallenged, a supporting character in a life built for the spotlight. And as Kevin Costner was building his legacy in blockbuster films, earning Oscars, and being celebrated across the globe for roles in Dances with Wolves, The Bodyguard, Field of Dreams, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, his then-wife was cast not in any script, but in the rigid, often suffocating role of the Hollywood spouse, a woman expected to smile, to accompany, to radiate beauty without overshadowing, to parent without complaining, to endure with grace the never-ending media attention, the travel, the loneliness, and the burden of being married to a man who belonged not just to her, but to the world. And for years she played that role with poise, weathering the highs and lows of Kevin's skyrocketing career, from award-winning triumphs to box office disappointments, from nights filled with champagne and spotlights to mornings of silence and tension. But even as cameras clicked and headlines praised their picture-perfect marriage, cracks began to form beneath the surface, not because she wasn't supportive or loving, but because the life of a star's spouse often comes at the cost of one's own identity, and those close to her began to notice the quiet sadness, the longing in her eyes, the way she drifted into the background not out of preference, but out of necessity. And when the divorce finally came sudden to the public, but long building in private, it wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the unraveling of an identity she had built over years of sacrifice. And while tabloids feasted on the split, speculating on infidelity, money battles, and irreconcilable differences, she disappeared, retreating not into scandal, but into silence, not with bitterness, but with quiet devastation and a determination to find herself again in a world that had long forgotten her name. Because in Hollywood, ex-wives are rarely allowed second acts, especially when they walk away from someone as iconic as Kevin Costner. But what she did in the years that followed would redefine everything, because she didn't spiral, she didn't seek revenge or validation through tell-all books or bitter interviews. Instead, she turned inward, facing her heartbreak with courage, healing her wounds through therapy, travel, and deep reflection, slowly shedding the skin of who she had been, Kevin Costner's wife, and becoming someone entirely new, someone independent, empowered, and radiant in a way that had nothing to do with makeup, lighting, or designer gowns. And as time passed, she rebuilt her life from the ground up, discovering talents she had long suppressed, pursuing causes she was passionate about: mental health advocacy, women's shelters, and sustainable living. And through those efforts, she not only found herself again, she found purpose. And when she eventually re-emerged into the public eye, not through a red carpet, but through a quiet appearance at a charity gala where someone snapped a candid photo that quickly went viral, the world gasped, not because she looked older or faded, but because she looked powerful, serene, and luminous in a way that made people stop and reevaluate everything they thought they knew about what it meant to age, to recover, and to evolve. And suddenly headlines were no longer about who she used to be, but who she had become. And what they revealed was stunning. She had earned a master's degree in psychology, started her own wellness foundation, written a book under a pen name that became a bestseller, and helped hundreds of women rebuild their lives after divorce, abandonment, or trauma, not because she wanted applause, but because she knew the path personally, because she had walked it barefoot, bleeding, and alone. And now, having emerged whole, she extended her hand to others with no desire for fame, only to uplift. And those who meet her today describe her as magnetic, wise, and disarmingly humble, a woman who speaks with clarity and depth, who commands respect not with volume but with presence. And as more people learn her story beyond the brief chapter with Costner, they begin to understand that she is no longer a side character in someone else's movie, but the lead in her own saga, a story of survival, rebirth, and brilliance that was forged not in fame, but in fire. And when people see her now, when they compare her quiet strength to the loud chaos of celebrity life, they begin to ask themselves why it took so long to notice her. Why the world is so quick to dismiss women once they're no longer arm candy, once they've been written out of the Hollywood script, and her story becomes more than just personal, it becomes cultural, a reminder of how society treats women. After 40, after divorce, after they stop serving the narrative of powerful men, and as she continues to flourish, she does so without malice, without retribution, without needing to prove anything to Costner or anyone else, and that is the most breathtaking part of her transformation, not the glowing skin or ageless style. Though those are impressive too, but the emotional freedom, the refusal to be bitter, the joy she radiates from a life that she finally lives on her own terms, and for those who once called her just the ex-wife, seeing her today is more than a surprise, it is a revelation, and in that revelation lies a quiet kind of justice, the kind that doesn't need a courtroom or applause, just the undeniable, powerful truth of a woman who was underestimated, overshadowed, and forgotten, only to become something so much greater than anyone ever imagined.